thanks everyone for coming. I'm going to go ahead and kind of kick it off now. Come and go as you please. For those of you who are here for the demolition, it's demonstration, not demolition. Dave, I'm looking at you. But let's go ahead and let's get going with this. All right. Again, thank you guys for coming. I'm Amanda Perkins, the QA Diva. You see my shield and logo there. This is Dev's Guide to Demoing, and I'm happy that you're here. Oh, gotta change focus. So first off, I'm gonna thank all of you for coming to Code PaLOusa. I know it's been a weird year, and so I'm just grateful that we could have this in this fashion even. And this has been such a great event so far. I want to thank Chad and team and the volunteers for putting everything together and making this a great event. They've done this for 10 years now, I think he said, and it just seems super cool. And hopefully next year I'll be able to be in Louisville and be able to take in all the sights and the bourbon. That's what I keep hearing is the bourbon. And I also want to thank our sponsors, because without them, we wouldn't be able to do a lot of this either. So when you get a chance, stop in the expo, tell them thanks for being here. Check out what they even have to offer. The Amazon Alexa one, I'm sure is pretty interesting. I was able to pop in for a second, so give them a big thank you. So before we get started, we're just going to kind of talk about why demoing is such a big deal. There's several reasons why demoing is a big deal. First off, it's great for the business team because they're the ones that asked for what you're working on every day, right? They have a vision, whether we agree with it or not, they have a vision. So showing them what we're doing helps them see their vision in person and kind of outside of their heads. It gives them that realistic view. Secondly, it gives the business team a chance to give feedback, because how do we know that what we've done is good and right if no one tells us? You demo your work, you get a chance to ask questions and either agree and give it a thumbs up or ask for changes to be made, right? So without a demo, how do they know that what they asked for is what's being done? But these aren't the only reasons to have a demo, right? It's show off time. You get to show off what you've been working on for this sprint or this couple of days or this epic, however it goes. You know, we know the business thinks about this one thing or this other thing, but maybe you figured out something else that they missed and you want to show it to them. Or maybe you can show off this really cool thing you were able to do that they didn't even think about when they were planning it. Because, I mean, we're human. We're not always going to get all the requirements when we need them or even think about the requirements that we need. Plus, if you develop something really cool, who doesn't want to show that off? Even if we're introverts, we'd like to show it off. We like to show people what we've done, you know? So take the time for a demo and show people what you can do. Take a few minutes and be proud of that thing. Because it's worth it. You put that work behind it. Show it off to people. A little bit of an introduction, and then we'll go right back into it. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Amanda Perkins. I'm the QA Diva. You can find me on Twitter at the QA Diva. I've been in QA for about 8 years. I've done manual testing and automation and waterfall and agile and just about anything in between. I'm a non-traditional QA. I didn't come into IT in the traditional sense. I didn't go to school for it. I kind of fell into it, and I'm pretty self-taught. So I have a different aspect and a different outlook on what I do. I've also been a part of demos, either as a participant or I've even led them. It's been interesting to be a facilitator on demos, and it's been a trip to just be the person giving the demo sometimes. So I got a little bit of these are the things that I've learned through trial and error that hopefully will help you when you have to do a demo. So we're done with that part. Let's get into it, right? So demos are an important thing. They give us a chance to see the code in action, to show it off to our peers, and to show the business that what they've asked for and all the requirements. You know, this is what they've asked for. They also are there to give us a feedback loop. We may have been developing and testing in somewhat of a vacuum. So presenting what we have to our business partners, we get the chance to get feedback and to take that back and make changes the business sees fit, right? It's also a chance for your friendly QA to see what you've done and question every little thing that you put out there. Okay, we're not monsters and we're not doing it on purpose. It's just part of our job. We question everything we see. Keep in mind that we're just looking at what you've developed usually in order to create a test plan to make sure that it's working the way that we expect it to do. We're not monsters. We just really want to make sure that you've covered the things that we see on an almost day-to-day basis. And it's not just our team, though, that we should think of for demos. At some point, someone else may have to take what you've developed and show it to a higher level of management or to the user, right? So if we get ourselves prepared for our demos, we have a better chance of someone else being able to share our work as well if we aren't able to do it. But I get it. Getting up in front of people is super scary. You don't have to admit it here in front of everyone, but just think about it. We tend to state to the world that we're introverts. We don't like people. We're peopled out. I do it too, right? And maybe it's true, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's just something that we just don't like to do. But, you know, we all have that moment. Our work. Still nerve-wracking. I still get nerves like an hour before I give a talk. I was trying to sit through Allison's talk and not be sick because I get so nervous. You know, I get it. I understand. But hopefully today we can talk through some of the things that help us get better at giving demos and we'll be less nervous. Still maybe a little bit nervous, but less nervous because we'll be prepared. So the first thing we need to keep in mind is who's in the audience. It's one question that will lead the way on how you should demo and what you should demo. If the people in the room aren't overly technical, like sometimes the business team's not, or the product team or whoever that other team that's feeding you the requirements is, make sure when you're doing a demo not to dive so much into the code. There might be one or two people that understand what you're talking about, even a little bit, but probably not everybody in the room is going to understand. And if there's other devs or more technical people, then not showing off your code and talking about how you got to that solution wouldn't be as effective. So how do we know who's going to be in the audience? Well, hopefully it's on the meeting invite. Sometimes it's not. Maybe someone said he'll be there. Like you got pulled in and somebody said the business team and the project manager are going to be there. There's always a way to find out who's going to be in attendance. You might just have to take a minute and ask somebody, like ask the person who set up the meeting to get a better idea. But let's say you don't know who's going to be there, or it's going to be a mixed group of people, like business team and testers and other developers. What do you do at that point? Well, we'll get into that as we get further on. So I give you kind of that option of each one and then kind of a mixed group. So potentially you could have 3 to 4 different groups for your demo. Excuse me. You might have the business team, maybe quality team, maybe peers on the development team, or you have a mixed bag of people. We'll talk about each of these groups and some things to keep in mind as you're getting ready to give your demo. So let's start with the 3 main groups, the individual groups. So I'm saying so a lot. Tick that off. What do we know about the business team? Well, besides the fact that we think they're usually out of their minds asking for ridiculously crazy things. In all seriousness, though, what do we know or what do we assume? Well, we figure we know what they want to see, and they might even know what the system does. But most likely they don't know or really aren't even concerned in the code or the process you took to get there. So what does that mean? Well, that means we should probably stick to what the system did, what they're expecting it to do now, and then you can show them the results of what you coded. But say you've got the QA team for your demo. Watch out. This group is going to ask every question you didn't even think about, and they'll even throw things out there you didn't think were possible. They'll even make you question your own existence if they're good. This group can be a little more technical, but they really just want to know if you thought outside of the box when you were developing this. And in my opinion, and I'm a little biased because I am a QA, this group is probably the pickiest group that you could have in front of you at any one time. I've heard some developers are that way, but really QAs they'll nitpick you to death. Maybe your demo is for a group of your peers or your mentors, and your mentors. That's where you can get technical, right? That's where you pull up the code, you do that deep dive. These are the folks that are going to pick your brain, and they'll have their own opinions on how you should have done it. So be ready to back your work and explain why you went the path you did. Don't be closed-minded, though. They might actually have a better way to do something, or maybe they just have a different way to do something that works out better. Now, individually, these three groups can be seriously daunting, but think about a mixed group. That's where you should probably default to the lowest to mid-technical level and be able to answer any questions that come up that are more technical or less technical in nature. So kind of ride that middle line. If you plan for the least technical, you'll be able to demo more effectively to the group. So we know who's there. It's time for the demo. And because we know what we know nothing will ever go as planned. It's what I like to call Murphy's Law of demos. What can go wrong will go wrong, especially at demo time. We've all had this moment. Think about it. You're about to show someone, and it happens to QAs too, right? We'll be right there, ready to show someone this wonderful, magnificent bug that we just found. And the very second someone is watching us and they're like shoulder surfing, it's magic. Either the environment doesn't work or the bug now just became a figment of your imagination. It's just gone and you have no idea why, right? It doesn't matter what we do. If it works on my machine, exactly. That's QA's worst nightmare right there. It doesn't matter what we do. If it's going to go wrong at the exact moment we need it to go right, or maybe wrong, it's going to go all the way wrong. So what else could possibly go wrong in this? Well, anything and usually everything. We'll talk about a couple of scenarios here. There's the environment. You're about to go to your demo, and for whatever reason, one of your teammates has decided it was absolutely necessary to push something out to the environment, and in that deployment broke everything. That's right. Some code out there just busted your environment that you're about to demo in minutes before your demo, and you have to figure out what you're going to do. That's one scenario. Or maybe you're early to the room where you're going to demo and you start to get set up. You're getting your machine out. You're getting all ready to plug in. You try to access the website or the app and it won't come up. You look over on your network access tab and you have no internet access. You take a minute, you look around, there's no cord to plug into, or if you're like my machine and you don't have a dock with you, you have no way of plugging a cord in anyway. So what do you do now? But maybe you had this demo scheduled and your BA or your QA was supposed to show it. And this was never supposed to be on your plate. They'd been looking it over and they had some notes and they had prepared some things. So kind of out of sight, out of mind, right? You're not dealing with it. Wrong. The BA is out of the office with the flu and the QA just got called into a meeting they can't get out of. Typical, right? You've got about 30 minutes, sometimes less, to remember what you did and what you wanted to show or what they wanted to show. What do you do now? No worries on any of these scenarios. We'll talk about some tips and tricks that I've come up with along the way to kind of get around these things, and you don't have to worry about it when things do go sideways. And I say when, not if. Sorry. So let's start with the first scenario. You spent all day working locally. You know things are working, and you've even uttered that phrase that Andre there said, every QA despises this phrase too, works on my machine. Maybe you had lunch and a small break for ping pong or something, back when we were in the office. Or maybe you have a ping pong table near your office and you can play at home too. But now it's demo time. You don't have time to switch branches and start everything up again. And you can't just show what you did on your current branch because it may or may not have your latest changes. Plus, anytime you use your local machine, something inevitably breaks, and it's usually right when you want to start up the app. Or maybe it's not even that. Let's take, maybe you use Visual Studio, and Visual Studio does what it does and decides it doesn't want to work anymore, and that it's time to reboot and restart it because there's some sort of weird update. And that will only take until you're basically dead to start back up again and get what you need to go. You have about 5 to 10 minutes, and that's not nearly enough time to restart VS, open the program, and get everything going again. Even worse, like I said before, something just got pushed up, broke that environment. You have no time to get it up on your local, and now that dev's busted, so you can't even show it there. What do? Easy cheesy. If you started working on another branch for something else, you probably pushed up a PR, and it probably got approved and built to at least a development environment. If you're lucky, it may even be in a testing environment if you have one. And that's even better because then you know that the QAs have some decent data to test with. So take a few minutes, figure out where your code is out there in the wild, and make sure you have any test data you need to show it. If you don't, ask the QA to help you out. They can probably spin up pretty quickly what test data you need and get you on your way. Why is it important, though? Well, there's nothing worse than fumbling around trying to figure out either where your branch is or where your code is. And what makes it harder is when you're trying to do that in front of a room full of people. So why not just find the environment beforehand in a couple minutes and where your code is and show it off there? And secondly, it's kind of a personal pride thing. You look even better and more confident if you can go right out and show immediately what the issue was and what your fix was without a whole lot of filling in the dead space while waiting for your environment to spin up. Because again, you're nervous, and there's nothing worse than going, hold on, and being more nervous. It just compiles, right? You look like a hero because you were just able to go out and do it, and the audience will appreciate it. And also, if you ask your product owner or your BA, this is the most important thing of all. Your demo will be on time, and you won't go over the 1 hour time limit they set for the meeting. So you might even get out of the meeting faster if you have everything else all laid out and ready to go. And if everybody else does too, you get time back, right? And who doesn't like getting out of meetings early? I love it. So great. Okay. So another scenario, you're in the worst possible room for the internet. And I've actually had this before. In some cases, there's like 2 wet walls because it's right next to the restroom. Or in the case that I had it in one of my previous employers, we were on the bottommost floor that's mostly underground. And the nearest Wi-Fi point is actually in a different room from where we were, right? So we have this much internet and not a lot to do about it. And there's no Ethernet cord in the room, but you couldn't plug it in anyway because, like I said before, I don't even have anything on my machine that I could plug it into unless I have my dock with me. It's craziness. Maybe you can connect, but the signal is super weak. Not only can you not connect to your site to show it off, but you can't run the call and the website and everything together because it just eats up all the bandwidth. Everything you look at is super slow and really annoying, and you know it's not going to work. So you ask yourself, great, how am I going to give my demo now? We got this. Easy answer. Have your demo pre-recorded and stored in your desktop or in a folder or somewhere that you can quickly and easily locate it that's not on the internet, right? You don't have to rely on the internet to play it. That covers that moment when you can't connect and demo. But think about this too. If you're working from home, kind of like we are now, or for whatever reason, kids sick, puppy sick, or you're in the middle of a pandemic, and your changes require you to be on VPN. Well, this was before when we had to worry about being on VPNs, but sometimes when you connect a VPN, I know in some cases we couldn't run VPN and Zoom at the same time. It would make everything crazy. If you have it pre-recorded, you can just not be on the things that are unnecessary. So you don't have to be on the VPN. You don't have to be on the internet. You can, well, you have to be on the internet for the call, of course, but you can kind of offload some of the things that get in your space, right? You've got no problems if you have it pre-recorded and just on your desktop. But have it somewhere close by that you know where it is. So you, again, reduce that amount of fumbling around. Just have it right there, double click, play. Another benefit to pre-recording is that it makes you actually stop and think about what you're going to say and what you're going to show. It becomes very deliberate. Some things to think about for a recording. If it's a bug, actually record what it looks like before your fix is in place, and then record what it looks like after. If it's a new feature, record the new feature, but then also record like if there's a workflow to access that new feature. Most importantly for recordings, plan what you're going to say and show. If you know what you're going to say, you can very slowly and deliberately record what you're going to show, and the room will be able to see the previous version and your changes. So having a plan will keep you both on task and keep you focused. That's the way this way you're only looking at and talking about what you've done, and you don't get distracted by other things like that bug that you're pretty certain the QA is going to catch and write a ticket for, but has less than 0 to do with what you fixed. So here's a little story on how easy this is to do, believe it or not. We had an internal tech conference at one of these companies I worked for. And at the last minute, the support engineer and I were asked to create a demo video to show of a certain aspect of our application. So we asked some questions, we got some clarification, and because I had to know what they wanted to show, we made a plan. We were going to record the steps for this demo, and the support engineer was going to walk through it at the same time. So what he actually ended up doing was he told me what to do as we were recording it. So then once we recorded it, he went back and watched it and took down notes of everything he told me to do. And then he watched it one more time and stepped through it to be sure that we were showing what he wanted to show. By the time he gave the demo, and I didn't have anything to do with it except for recording it, people actually asked how he was doing it and if it was voice activated, because it looked like he was verbally stepping through and making the system do what he wanted it to do. And it was all because it took us less than an hour. I think it took us less than 30 minutes to record it and practice on it. So, and that's kind of something we'll talk about as we get further on. Not only did we record it though, so in cases like if we ever get back in the office and you have to like do a joint presentation, and this works for presenting too, have it on one computer. Like whoever's going to be the presenting computer, do it that way. So then you can even do this remotely. If you have several people presenting, you can have that recording on the presenter's laptop, and they can just either click through or push play or whatever, right? So if we can do it in that short amount of time, anybody can do it. And to be honest, the support engineer is more of a customer support and less of a tech support. So it's not like he was super tech savvy, right? He does his best, but that's just how it is. So we've talked about recording the demo, and I'm sure the next question that you might have is, what do I use? I've got a couple different options for you. I'm not a big fan of Macs. Typically, I use them for work. Personal preference, please don't anyone hate me for that. But so I tried my hardest to find something that was applicable for both PC and Mac. So you can have both. There's all sorts of stuff out there. You can Google search more of them. I did some of the work here for you, so you have a couple ideas. If you're on a Windows machine, super easy, hit Windows G, it opens the game bar. You can record audio and video and take screenshots, and it's free, and it's right there. It's already built in, and you can trim and edit your videos. So I found Active Presenter for Macs. Luckily, it's available for both Windows and Mac, and it's also free. But you have to download additional software if you want to make an audio recording. So just kind of keep that in mind. And of course, on a Mac, you always have the QuickTime player. It's already built in. Again, it's like the game bar. You just have to open it and run it from your machine. And from what I can tell, I haven't used it a whole lot. I think you can record audio as well. But something else that I'm sure some people have great experience with, I have a little bit, is OBS. You can use it Windows, Mac, Linux. It's free to use, and you can record audio. It's got some great additions to it. You can have a green screen. You can have backgrounds. There is a little bit of a learning curve if you're a beginner, so just keep that in mind. So something else that you can do to record your demos, especially if you have mobile, again, on that tech conference that I had, in last minute, I had to record on my phone. I had to record our app on my phone. So if you have the iOS, it's easy. You get that built-in recorder, right? Or don't have to worry about that. And now I have an Android, and I ended up, I think at the time it was called Screen Cam. It was free. It was easy to use. You can always go in the Play Store and find it, find anything that works. Okay. QuickTime does do screen cap and audio too. Cool. Good to know. Thank you. But just, you can record, and on the Android, it'll actually give you a link that you can share on some of these applications for screen recording. And it makes it really easy to share it and edit it from your computer and all of that. So maybe it's not this. Maybe you have a different issue, and maybe it's something else. Oh, Snagit is great. $50. Cool. I didn't know that they do audio and video recording, but that's also good to keep in pocket. So Snagit. So maybe it's something else. Maybe your BA or your QA can't actually get up in front of people and present your demo. The BA's got the flu, the QA's got one of those meetings that they can't ever seem to get themselves out of. And they just dumped it on you and said, well, you have to do it now. Maybe you've not given a demo. Maybe you're not great at being in front of people. What do you do now? Well, you're going to have to do it on your own. But don't worry. You've coded this, right? You know how to show it off. Show it off. You know what the issue is or was, and what was asked for in the requirements. You took the time, hopefully, please take the time to walk through it. QAs will be thankful for it. And look up that one thing on Stack Overflow so you could actually make it do the thing you want it to do. QAs use Google too. You took the time to record it. So be confident and demo that bad boy. Put it in front of people. Don't be scared of it. You know who's in your audience now. You know what environment it's in. You have a recording in case the world does come crashing down. It's your time to shine. Or maybe you forgot what you did because you're doing other things. You're pretty busy. You can do it. Yes. Ask your BA or your QA what they were going to show off. They might have actually had a plan and written it all down that you can just borrow and walk through the demo. If you've got time, go find that JIRA ticket and go over it again just as a refresher. Maybe even see what the test notes are from your QA. Take a few notes real quick on a Post-it note or something on what the issue is and walk through the system. Make sure you know how to get there and what to do again. Even a couple minutes of remembering what the issue is and what you've done will be better than going in completely cold. Because we all know there's nothing possibly worse. There's possibly nothing worse than going into a demo and fumbling around because you can't remember what you did last week. Because we all know the demos don't happen the day after we get something done. Take 3 minutes before the demo and walk through it again. It'll come back to your mind and you'll be able to confidently talk about what you've done. When you get ready to demo, there are a couple things to remember. When you're demoing, take a couple of minutes and explain the issue you coded. You know what the issue is. It's either a bug that was turned in or it's a new feature. Either way, you know what it's about, either from the ticket or from reproducing the bug repeatedly or watching your QA do it 500 times. And that's how you try to figure out how to fix it, right? But don't just talk about it. Show off the issue. One of the favorite comics that I have is, I usually have it printed and taped to my monitor, but it's all these little comic boxes. And one of them says, if you find a bug, take a picture. Bugs like to keep memories, right? So it's kind of down that vein. Take a second and show it off. Show off the bug. Explain to people that may not know why it's a problem. If it's a new feature, show the area that exists where the feature is going to go, because sometimes it's behind a feature flag and you're not going to turn it on, but you want people to know approximately where it's going to go. And once you've talked about and shown off the issue, you're going to want to explain your solution. Now, remember how we talked about you've got to keep in mind who's in the audience. If it's your business unit, keep it high level. Don't get too far down into the weeds on the technical implementation. If it's your peers or your QAs, get a little more into the details. But don't just explain it. Explain why it was the optimal solution. Explain why you chose to go down that path. Give them an idea as to why you solved it the way you did. So you've explained your solution, and now you get to show it off. This is the fun part. You've spent all this time, or in some cases a little bit of time, creating the solution. So now you get to just show everybody what you did. Here's another place to remember your audience, though, and cater what you say and show. If you need to, show the issue and the solution side by side. If you got a recording, play them at the same time. Show them the performance difference, how before it took 10 seconds and now it takes less than 1. If it's the business unit and the QAs and the business unit, the QAs and your peers will appreciate actually seeing the issue and the solution. I've seen this in demos before. They show us, oh, this is how it worked before and this is how it works now. And then when you lay them side by side, you're like, oh, that is a big difference. People are visual learners. Use that. So there's more to a demo than just showing off. Let's take a little time here now and talk about what to remember about presenting. A couple of things to keep in mind. This was, again, when I initially wrote this, and I need to tweak it a little bit, it seems, this was done when we were more in the office. Something that I learned from another demo was if one person is remote, the entire team is remote. So even if you're in a room full of people, when we're back to the time when we can be, if you have even one person remote, think everybody is remote. Because this will make you slow down in your speaking. This will make you speak clearly and loudly so that it can be picked up by the microphone in the room. And then people can hear you and understand you better. And if you're screen sharing, whether you're remote or not, be sure to move slower than you, yes, about people being remote. Be sure to move slower than you normally do, because screen sharing apps have a tendency to be slower than how we move, than how we expect things to be, because it's that lag time built in, right? So just make sure that you click through a little bit slower, give it a second to come on. I've seen demos where they just click through really fast and it's just a blur and you can't tell what's going on. Otherwise, somebody's going to ask you to stop and start over and do it again. And you already don't want to be there and showing this off. So start slow now. You get through it faster in the end. Seems counterintuitive, I know. Most of all, be confident. Seems silly, right? Think about it. If you can walk confidently into the meeting and or speak confidently about what you're showing, it'll go a long way to show that you know what you're doing. We know you know, right? But kind of like I tell my 17-year-old, my son, about showing his work in classes, you have to be able to show others that you know as well. So just be confident that you know. Fake it till you make it if you have to. But just, you got it. You can do this. Yes, some people do talk faster when they're nervous. So just slowing down in general and just like sitting back and being consciously aware that you're speaking faster and slowing down, you'll nail it. It'll be great. And remember to practice. Even if you don't know if you're going to have to demo, practice just in case. Take a few minutes, walk through what you wanted to show and say, and ask your QA, ask your BAs, ask somebody to be your audience. Again, we had to do that conference, and even though we did it last minute, We practiced and practiced and practiced a couple times just hours before, just to make sure that we had it down. And honestly, it went together smoothly. You wouldn't have even known that we had thrown it together just hours before. A couple of minutes of practice, nobody will ever know. Here's the important one, and I have to remind myself of this one often. Breathe. Don't forget to breathe. You're going to be nervous. You're going to talk fast. You're going to be like, oh my goodness, what am I doing? Breathe. Take a breath. Slow down. Getting up in front of people, even people you know, is going to make you nervous. You'll talk really fast, sometimes really high-pitched, and sometimes your breath will come really, really rapidly. Just slow down and remember to stop for a breath. It's all going to be okay. Most of all, you've got this. Really, you got this. You did the work. You might even have tested it before you gave it to QA, and you made sure that it was working. Be confident in what you've done. You know what you want to show, and you know your audience. You can do this. You've got your notes, you've walked through it, and you remember what you did, and you can talk to that. Even if it's last minute, and you're not 100% certain, more like 90% certain, fake it till you make it. No one is there to judge your demo, believe it or not. Nobody's there to do that. Well, there's always that one person that's always a heckler that's going to give you a hard time every single time. It's okay. If you can walk into that demo knowing at least minimally what you want to say, you're going to be a lot less flustered when they start throwing random ideas and issues at you, because that's what they're going to do. Now you've finished your demo. You're starting to breathe regularly again, and you're feeling pretty good. Wait, they have questions and comments now? That's right. They're going to ask you things and give you some feedback. And believe it or not, that's okay. It's that time. Let's look at this feedback loop. Once you've completed the demo, go ahead and ask for questions and concerns from the audience. Someone is going to want to ask something. Let them. You can answer what they're going to ask. You know the issue. You know your solution. And they're going to ask the questions, so just do your best to answer them. Again, remember who's in your audience, though. You adjusted your demo to the audience, so be sure to adjust your answers to the audience. Remember, keep your audience in mind. If your audience is the non-technical group, keep your answers as non or low tech as you can. Keep your answers concise and to the point, and do your best to keep them understandable. That doesn't mean to talk to them like they're children. Just make sure you're not speaking C# while they may only know JavaScript. Their questions are likely to revolve around the user and the user experience. Keep that top of mind when you answer their questions. If you have a room full of testers, that's the group you might actually find to be the hardest to deal with. They will grill you, not on the code, but on the most insane edge cases they can possibly think of to throw at you, and they'll do it on the fly. That's what we do. And speaking as a QA, don't let them get to you. They're worried about the weirdest possible scenarios that you probably didn't think of anyway. It's their job to do this. It's their job to push the system to its limits. Just do your best to address their concerns as much as possible. Then remember that and make sure you go back and code for it later. Then you can get them. Like gotcha. When you do demo to them again, you'll be even more prepared because you remembered the crazy questions they asked last time. And of course, there's your technical group, your peers. They're going to stop you in your tracks and tell you what they thought, where they thought you went wrong, or they're going to chat you up after the demo on the way back to your desk or on Slack, because that's how they get to you now. Either way, they're going to want to dig in to why you went with the solution you did. Get as technical as you like with these guys, these folks. They'll appreciate the technical talk, and you'll be able to maybe get some new ideas on how to approach it next time. And remember, if it's a mixed group though, just maybe table a conversation until afterwards, just in case you either go down a rabbit hole or it starts to take longer than necessary to complete the demo. In conclusion, remember your audience. before, during, and after. Remember who's there. If you don't know the audience, keep it as understandable as possible. If you can keep your demo concise and easy to follow, you'll have a better opportunity to successfully show what you've done. Pre-record your demo. Just in case you don't have an environment or the internet, go ahead and record your demo and save it to your desktop. And this goes back to practicing too. If you take some time to spin up a quick recording, you'll get a little practice time in. This is a win-win for everybody. Practice, practice, practice. We've all heard that one. Whether you know far enough in advance or even just minutes before, taking a couple minutes to practice will help it go smoother. You don't have to commit to days worth of practice. Just a couple of minutes of practice, jotting some notes down is going to help with your demo. You'll also feel a little more confident in what you're showing off. Leave time for feedback. Every demo will have feedback. Remember your audience and answer their concerns accordingly. Whether they tell you it's exactly what they wanted or they realize that that's not what they wanted at all, and now you have to go back and change everything that you just did. It's better to get the feedback after your demo, usually before, but sometimes you can only get it after the demo, and be able to work towards more of what they want to see. Most of all, breathe. You're gonna be nervous, but you know the issue. You know your solution. You might even find that you like standing up in front of people. Maybe you just might send me an email or a tweet later and be like, "You're nuts, lady." Either way, you'll have at least gotten in front of people and done it one time. So it's my hope today that I've given you something to take back and help you, or maybe somebody on your team, to be more successful in your demos. And for your next demo, I wish you the best of luck, and that Murphy's Law of Demos leaves you alone. If anybody's got any questions, anything you want to talk about, please, now's the time to do it. And it looks like, of course, that little icon there is supposed to look, even in my demo, not everything goes right. That's supposed to be the Code PaLOusa sign or logo. It looks like it's broken on the next two slides. It's fine. This is what we do. I'm super passionate about helping people out with demos. So if you got any questions, any ideas that can make the information that I give better, please reach out. You can either do it here. My contact information is there at the QA Diva on Twitter, or my email's there. Feel free, shoot me a line. Always like to talk. I'll talk about this. I'll talk about QA. I'll talk about people skills, anything. Feel free to come up here and talk to me. Thank you, Alex. I hope you're able to take something away with it. Again, thanks to Chad and team and the sponsors and everybody, all the attendees. Thank you guys for being here. Really appreciate it. I'm glad to be able to speak in front of everyone and have these interactions. I'll post my speaker slides again. There's the slides if you want to see them. To present work I've done to freelance clients regularly. Oh, good. Well, maybe not good, but hopefully you can take something away that'll help you with your freelance clients. Anyone? It does. It really does. That was one of those things that I picked up along the way. It was just crazy that I didn't think of it before. And then I started just kind of recording it and putting it there, and thought, oh my gosh, this is so much easier, especially when you have like low connectivity and stuff in office buildings and sometimes. It's very weird for it to be very, very quiet. Oh, absolutely. My pleasure. I'm Happy to. I hope that they help people. I know how stressful it is to give demos and be in front of people, so anything to make it easier on everyone. Oh, good, Tracy. I'm glad to hear that. Inevitably, something always go wrong? So live demos are also dependent on that extra unknown of whether we're going to respond in a timely way. Yep, recording is definitely helpful for stuff like that. And stuff that you know is timely, going to take a little while. Record it beforehand. You don't have to worry about it. And then people assume that it just is super speedy. Yeah, it was one of those things that it just I really picked it up from. Yeah, you can tweak it. You can tweak the recording and only show what you want it to show and not everything. It's a little shady. And sometimes they hide bugs that we know are there. It's definitely shady. Hiding bugs from a QA is not good. Yeah, record a GIF. That helps too, because people really, and it helps that if you can do that too, amazingly enough, if you're writing a bug ticket and you can do a small recording like that, it's super helpful. I've found that it gives, in PRs, awesome. If you can have that recording in your bug tickets, it gives the developer a better idea of what you did and how you got there, and what it looks like when you do it. Because sometimes we get that works on my machine thing, and technically it does, but sometimes they don't see that thing that as a QA we consider a bug. So you're able to take that second to kind of show them without actually taking 5 minutes and having them come to you and show them. Especially in the remote times like now, being able to record it and show them what it's like in the wild is so much better. I like the idea of GIFs and PRs though. That's a good idea. Let's take that back. Write that down. Writing it down. GIFs in PRs. I still write with pens and paper. Oh, good. Thank you, Alex. You too. I think some others will be starting soon. Can't remember exactly. I'm trying to look it up again. Okay, so it looks like about 20 minutes or so, 24 minutes till the next session start. Top of the hour. Thank you. I'll hang out here for a little bit longer. If anybody wants to chat, we don't have to talk about this. We can talk about anything. Don't mind. Talk about Viking shields or video games, movies, QA. I'm always willing to talk about QA and try to unvilify QA. We're not the bad guys, I promise. We're not trying to be meanies. Yeah, I've had to do that before too, where you record what you're testing in your test cases so that you can actually prove that you've done it. It hurts me a little bit because it's like, oh, you have no trust in QA, but I also understand, like, in some cases why. Especially in highly regulated areas, having a recording is just better. So you can just show it off. I'm gonna have to look at Snagit. I might add it to my. So add Snagit to demo slides. Yeah. I had a PO that had trust issues with QA. It was very hard to get my job done. Yeah. Yeah, I don't. I'm glad you guys came. I'm glad everybody came, and glad we wanted to hear about giving better demos. It's such an important thing, especially now, to be able to show our work off. Excuse me. Woo, voice got a little scratchy there. Being able to show off our work is so important. And I know we're introverts, and I know we don't necessarily like to put ourselves out there, but unfortunately we have to do it. We just have to put ourselves out there and show off our work. I think it's a little bit easier doing it remotely though, because sometimes you can hide, you don't have to have your camera on and you can just screen share. And so it takes away, not being in front of people takes away a little bit the nervousness, because then you don't have that feeling. That's kind of what I hope with recording too. If you already have it recorded, you can just play, you can kind of explain, hey, this is what I did, and less nerve-wracking. Stick around for a couple more minutes in case anybody wants to say anything. I see there's like 9 people here. So anybody wants to chat, come up face to face so we can talk about just about anything. I saw a tweet earlier today that said, as tech people, we don't talk about our kids or our families very often. And I got to think about that. I was like, oh, it's kind of true. I do it personally, just privacy thing. People know I have kids, but they don't know their names. I refer to them as Tiny Minion and Boy Minion. My youngest minion is 10 and the other one is 17. And they both want to have something to do with tech. The eldest minion wants to be game design, and the youngest wants to be a coder or an art therapist. Mm-hmm. They're interesting little things. I have to give mad shout out to my son though. He's worked at the local grocery store since before the pandemic, and has worked solidly through it. And he's just a trooper. He's done things out there that other people that he works with took some time off and they weren't able to. But he's my good boy, and he's out there just working his butt off, doing what he can, staying as safe as he can. It terrifies me in this time of pandemic, but he does what he can to stay safe and stuff. So super proud of that one. Tiny one, she's fun. I love her all the time. Yeah. All my best to him as well. I hope that, I think Shelly, was it you that was talking about being fairly new to tech? Yes. Okay. I hope that this conference has brought you lots of things that you've learned. And oh yeah, you have the great sponsor too. You have your boss who pushes you for this stuff. Stay with that. That's awesome. It's so great to hear. I wish you the best of luck. Oh, good. I wish you the best of luck. And if you ever need anything, like I said, you can find me out on Twitter. You can find Allison out on Twitter. You can find most of these people out on Twitter. Reach out. What I love about our tech community is that everybody's willing to share. Everybody's willing to help. So reach out to people, ask for help, ask for words of encouragement sometimes. Sometimes you just need it. Totally understand it. And I hope that we see big things out of you too. So, and with that, I'm going to wrap for the day. I want to thank everyone for being here. Thank you so much for coming and seeing me. If you saw me today, if you saw me yesterday, both days, thank you for coming. Without you guys out here doing this, it'd be really boring. Just sit in my office and talk to myself. So have a great rest of your conference. Have a great time. Stay safe and be blessed. Bye, guys.